Welcome back. The war in Ukraine has overshadowed a lot of the president's domestic agenda recently. Earlier this month, the war drowned out many of the items in his State of the Union address. And next week, it looks likely to eclipse the confirmation hearings for the Supreme Court nominee, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Joining me on set, New York Times Pentagon reporter, MSNBC contributor Helene Cooper, Democratic strategist Adrian Elrod, and former RNC chair Michael Steele. Both of them also MSNBC political analysts. Helene, first I want to start with you on a topic I did not put in the preview here, but it is more of your beat, and that is the Iran deal. Is that really going to happen in this moment? I mean, seriously? I mean,
whenever this is so typical, right? Mm-hmm. Whenever our attention is drawn away from something, you all of a sudden, I had not been paying any attention to the Iran, what was going on with the Iran nuclear negotiations. Things were looking so bad, and I remember a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden we started seeing percolations coming up. But at the moment, things seem to be going forward. Rob Malley is again in talks with them, and so we're going to see where we get.
Adrian, is this, the Iran deal, there is some complicated Democratic politics with the Iran deal. We know, like, Robert Menendez is against it. There's a lot of particularly Northeastern Democrats who probably were fine if this went away. Mm-hmm. And now it's just awkward timing, and it certainly politically is just going to be weird to be working with the Russians on something.
Yeah, the timing is very strange and certainly not advantageous to Senate Democrats or to the administration. But look, this is
the administration pushing this, though. Right,
but it's still not something that I think that they even want to be heavily engaged in. Right, you would assume. But no, I mean, look, this is at least something that's not driving all the headlines right now, right? Because of the situation with Russia, because, of course, on the domestic front, we have a Supreme Court justice to nominate very soon, or to be confirmed very soon. But it is something that Democrats, especially those who, as you noted, Chuck, are on the Northeast corridor, are going to have to contend with.
But it's a good time to get something done on Iran while all these other things are going on. Maybe that's the
I was just going to say, strategically, does it end up like a bet? Yeah. You do it. Right. There'll be less. You're going to get blowback. Noise. Blowback's going to come no matter what. Right. And if you believe it's important to do, this is.
But you're doing it in a clean environment right now without a lot of interference and noise around.
I would also argue that going ahead with this right now makes a lot of sense, because the last time we had a chance for going all out with an Iran deal was, remember, this is years ago, right after we invaded Iraq, and Iran wanted a deal then, and we said, no, we're not going. We're too busy with this. We're not going to deal with it. They've learned their lesson.
Which is, don't compartmentalize.
Yes.
Actually, try to actually accomplish a few things at the same time.
That's right.
Well, Venezuela seemed to blow up in their face a little bit, and that seems to have been on the back burner. But Iran, they're said. All right, let's talk about the confirmation hearings. Adrian, it seems, what is it? Even Mitch McConnell said she's going to get confirmed. So, what is the goal then? Let me ask you this: what is the goal of the Democrats here on these confirmation hearings? To protect her from attacks, or do you not expect anything that serious?
No, look, we know that Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, that there are going to be Republicans who are going to attack her record, what they think is being soft on crime. She represented some prisoners at Gitmo. They're going to be talking about that. But for us as Democrats, we want to talk about her qualifications and her experience. And I think what you're not going to see coming from Republicans is attacking her credentials for being on the court. We are prepared. I'm actually working with a number of outside groups right now, getting ready for next week. We are prepared to respond accordingly to attacks, but we don't want to lift those attacks up either. We want to make sure that that her own words that she says in front of the hearings next week, that her own words are lifted up, that again, we focus on her qualifications and her experience, and that she is exceptionally qualified to be on the court.
Michael, I've sort of put this way. If the Republicans could attack her on inflation, they would. But meaning they don't have really a win in here.
There's no win here.
They want to just simply keep an issue alive that they think might help. And I guess trying to do a crime hit. Is that what they think here? That even if you don't, it at least keeps that, quote unquote, in the news?
It keeps it in the news. It also is driving down to the base. There's a lot of money being raised off of,
well, Hawley only appears to be interested in this for his fundraising.
Right, so this is all, Josh Hawley
just put one out today about this.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is all about the money. It is about how they can leverage that. They know that even though you don't have Sinema or Manchin having confirmed their support for for the judge, they'll be there. So McConnell knows that, and he says what he says. This is a done deal. So the question for the Republicans is, how do we then create it as a placeholder in terms of other narratives that we're pushing, whether it's on crime issues, whether it's going to be on inflation, like you said, if we can somehow tack to her that she had a case in which...
Right. I mean, I'm being facetious, but it seems like that's all they want to be able to do.
That's all they want to be able to do, and that's good. That's fine, because at the end of the day, they cannot in any way raise a question about her qualifications.
That's right.
Helene, I'm curious where your attention's going to be on Tuesday. I say this because that's confirmation hearings to start, and the President of the United States is going to be in Brussels at a NATO leaders meeting, perhaps deciding how involved NATO is going to get if something X, Y, or Z happens. And I say this because I think Judge Jackson is just not going to get the same national lift that our last sort of 5 Supreme Court confirmation hearings have done for the previous one.
I don't think she is at all. I couldn't even remember. A few days ago, we were planning our story meetings and stuff for next week, and somebody said, well, we're going to be doing can you help with the live briefing on the Supreme Court nominations? And I remember thinking, there's something, but that's because my head has been so in Ukraine.
Or the Pentagon correspondent, that's okay.
What do you expect from me?
Yeah.
But the NATO meeting is going to be huge. This is the most consequential issue that NATO has faced since its inception. Yeah. This is it. Does the alliance, what does the alliance stand for? Mm-hmm. What is the alliance there for? They initially managed to be great on unity at the beginning of the Ukraine invasion, but they've started to get a little bit rocky with the MiG-29 debate with Poland, and it's going to be interesting to see how President Biden tries to hold the alliance together, and just what they come up with as we go forward, especially with the kind of video footage that we're seeing right now coming out of the Mariupol theater. You also have now the Japanese are reporting that 4 amphibious Russian ships just left the Pacific, where they had been doing exercises and are headed for the Black Sea. This could get a lot worse before this gets better.
We know Odessa is
exactly
the side, although our folks seem to think that Odessa is more protected from the sea. All right, I'm going to ask you both a couple of domestic questions that are on each side of your party. Adrian, the Stephanie Murphy interview today, I want to put up this one quote, because this seems to be the chief tension sometimes inside the Democratic Party. She said, "I'm surprised how short the memory is. It's as short as being celebrated for having flipped a seat and then excoriated for taking votes that help you keep that seat." Stephanie Murphy, a moderate who held a swing district in Florida. She's now retiring. She ran for the Senate for a minute until Val Demings got in and then decided. Fair critique or sour grapes?
I think to an extent, it is a fair critique. I mean, Chuck, I worked at the DCCC during the 2006 cycle when Democrats took back the House. Speaker Pelosi became Speaker Pelosi. And the reason why we won is because we recruited moderate Democrats in swing districts and even to an extent red districts. And we flipped those seats because the members of Congress or the candidates rather, that time, who won reflected their district. Right. Stephanie comes from a very moderate district, and we cannot chase those moderates out of the party. There's got to be a voice for them, and there's got to be a way to include them more in the conversation.
Yeah, delete your Twitter app is what I would tell.
And that too.
I would tell most people. Michael Steele, Mo Brooks is having to put an ad on the air championing the fact that he was at a January 6th rally, because Donald Trump wants to pull his endorsement of him as a Senate candidate because he's not been loyal enough. The back and forth here has been wild.
Right.
Where literally Mo Brooks has said, he wants me to do something that's against the law. Like, here I was there for him on January 6th, but I cannot replace Joe Biden as president, and he seems to not understand that. What does this tell you about loyalty to Trump?
It's fickle as hell. I mean, I don't know why people go into these relationships with Donald Trump thinking that this is a two-way street. I mean, you would think after, the last 5 years you would understand exactly whether it is, yet they're still desperate for his endorsement. They then have to kowtow often, as we've seen Kevin McCarthy go down and kiss the ring, only to have, at some point within the next 6 weeks get slapped by Donald Trump. Right. You see the same thing with DeSantis in Florida, who's now finding himself on the outside. What's the end game? What's the upside?
I don't know. The humiliation knows no line.
No line.
Folks. It's stunning. Helene, Adrian, and Michael, I went over the line. I okayed each other the apology note. Thank you all for being with us this hour. We'll be back Monday with more Meet the Press Daily. Sunday, a packed show for you.